Now before we go any further, let's talk a bit about true and false. Now you may notice that when you type them in a code editor, so for example here we're using Jupyter Notebook, when you put true and false with upper T and F, they appear in a different colour than variables or strings, for example. Now this is because true and false are their own special type, and this data type is known as bool. So if we pass true into the built-in type function, we can see that we return a bool object. We have also seen that true and false are reserved keywords that should only be used for their intended purposes. Now the good news is, true and false are the only bool types, so you don't have to remember much, and any variable that is assigned one of these values is called a Boolean variable. So how can we create a Boolean variable? Well, Boolean variables can be created in several ways, but the easiest way is to simply assign true or false to a variable. So we could have a variable called I_am_happy, and we can set this equal to true. We can then have a second variable called I_am_tired, and we can set this equal to false. So if we check to see the type stored in variable I_am_happy, we can see that we've stored a bool object. Now you can also set a variable equal to a Boolean expression, so not true or false, but an expression that results in neither true or false. So if we put my_bool and set this equal to 5 is the same as 5, which is depicted by this double equal sign, you can see that when we check the type of my_bool, we get bool, because it stores the value true. Now if we were to have my_bool_1 and we set this equal to 1 plus 1 in brackets is not equal to 2, obviously this is false, they are both equal to each other, this will return the value false, and hence we get my_bool_1 containing a Boolean value. Now these variables contain Boolean values, so when you now reference them, they will only return the true or false values of the expression that they were assigned. Now the main thing to take away here is that true and false with capitals are Booleans. If I create a variable called a and assign this the value true in double quotes, and then I create a variable called b and set this equal to true with a small t, and finally if I create c and set this equal to true with a capital T, if we look at the types of each of these variables, you can see we have two string objects and we only have one bool data type, despite all having reference to the word true. So remember, we write Boolean expressions to obtain a Boolean result, which can either be true or false. We can then get the computer to do something after it's evaluated the result of the condition, and we'll see this in the coming videos.